Tell me what this is about.
So
You've got the suit.
I do. It's right here. It's glorious. So Waymo claims that Uber has taken their technology for self-driving cars, and that's led to about $500 million in profits, in revenue. Sorry. They claim that a former executive from Waymo stole about 14,000 confidential files from their server and took it over to Uber, where they are building a similar program.
We've heard these stories before, Keith. I can't think of how many companies. I mean, heck, Fitbit, right? That sounds like the Fitbit Jawbone lawsuit, where an employee moves over, Jawbone claims, or sorry, Fitbit claims, hey, they backed their stuff up to the server. We didn't know they even had it. We turned it over right away. But these suits can sometimes be really serious.
Well, I think these suits are very different than patent infringement. I think there's an ethos against patent infringement in Silicon Valley. So I would have been shocked if Google had sued or Alphabet had sued Uber directly for violating some IP. But theft, I think, is something that is culturally acceptable to police and prosecute. And so I think that's unacceptable and a line that Alphabet's going to enforce.
What do you mean ethos against patent infringement?
Like if Google's employees would have gone ballistic if Google had sued Uber directly. I think it's just unacceptable to use patents offensively in most Silicon Valley software companies. Just like you saw this outpouring of sort of moral outrage on the immigration order, there's that kind of outrage against using patents offensively in Silicon Valley.
That's interesting. And yet patents are there for defense. So talk to me this kind of suit. As I mentioned, we've seen a lot of these suits like this.
We have. We've seen, as you mentioned, the Jawbone and Fitbit. But this is sort of the first suit we've seen come out of Google where they're really taking the offensive, as you've said. How this shakes out is going to be a huge question. There's a lot of tech at stake. There's a lot of money at stake.
And when we see so many companies working on a limited pool of talent resources where, just in Silicon Valley, right? Ford and Delphi, two companies you don't think of as Silicon Valley, but they've hired hundreds of people in Silicon Valley. Of course, you've got Google, you've got Tesla, you've got Apple, you've got Uber, all right here, all trying to go after people who know how to make self-driving cars.
Well, I think there's a difference between what you might have in your brain, which is really hard to police and enforce, versus actually taking copies of documents. I think there's a pretty bright line there, and I think those who violate that line should be fired, and it's perfectly proper to pursue their employer for using any of that information. There's a question of knowledge. Sometimes the company doesn't really know that the employee has taken this information and started to use it in their new job. That would obviously be a problem if Uber had awareness of that.
But what you're saying is Uber, if Uber knew of an employee that they'd hired from Google came with documents, Uber should fire the person.
Absolutely. I know of many companies that have done that, where they found an employee took information from a prior job. If they found out about that, especially if the employee deceives the company about it and tries to hide it, absolutely a firing offense.